Welcome, everybody. My name is Linda Bucci. I may or may not know some of you or have had contact with some of you, but in this world of online, we actually haven't probably seen each other in this particular iteration, although I have been to orientations and I have had chats with some of the students. But leaving that aside, what we're hoping to do today is give you students who had questions an opportunity to talk to us about the final aspect of your graduate degree, which is the capstone. And I'm just going to give a little overview. You could take as a final capstone, after you've taken and completed 27 credits and have taken research methods, then you could take in the main course either CJ 798, which is the research and project capstone, or CJ 799, which is the internship capstone. They're two regular classes. You register for them like classes, although they're very different. I'm going to let Professor Weeks talk about the research capstone along with Professor Zawiza. But I'll start because I'm talking right now with CJ 799, which is the internship capstone. One of the things, I would like to say is a lot of times students will request, you have to request permission from me online to register. But in addition, if you do the internship capstone ahead of time, before you even try to register, you're supposed to write to me and tell me what your internship plan is, so that I can approve your placement and make sure it's appropriate for the course. It usually just takes an email to do that. And I just want to make sure that that's all set and it's appropriate and follows all the requirements. And then once I give you the okay on that, you then would, when you go to register, you will be required to request permission online. And then I have to grant that permission. And then you could register for the course. The internship requires 150 hours and a class. And it goes over the 14-week main session. It's the only way you can take it. It's offered every main session, fall, spring, and summer. Let's see, anything else about the internship? One of the things that comes up a lot with the police folks is they'll ask the question, can you do your internship where you work? Yes, you can do your internship where you work if it's appropriate and I approve of it, just knowing that you have to do 150 hours outside of what your job is on a special project. We often have police officers, for example, in Boston, who are a regular police officer going for their master's degree, and they will work 150 hours over the 14 weeks in the community service division and go to community meetings and do something around that. That's their internship. Or I've had several police officers, for example, do a work on an accreditation project with the chief of police, okay? So you could do those hours, but they can't be your regular paid working hours. I know some of you who are in our undergraduate program, we did allow you to do that. But this is above and beyond because you're working professionals. 150 hours have to be extra. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ed so that you have time for questions.
Everyone, how you doing? I recognize some of you on the call. Hi, Katie. I'm going to start with sharing my screen. Everyone see my screen?
Coming.
Okay.
I don't see it yet. Ah, there you go.
All right. All right, here you go. So I've been teaching CJ 798, the research project Capstone, since we started the program, and it's been a great opportunity to see students get their research written and to follow up on what they learned in research methods. So the course is 14 weeks long, and it's a group of mostly criminal justice practitioners. Really what students get is an expert guidance in librarian and academic one-on-one assistance with their writing. Also, the project's broken down into 4 different parts. The first part is writing proposal to the first draft looks at their putting together their introduction, lit review, a kind of a policy analysis if that's what they choose to do. They may choose a project as well. They're also discussing and concluding and making some good suggestions for the practice. They do have to write in APA format, and it usually comes in around. It has to be 6,000 words, so it's around 20 pages. After that, I have them do some peer editing, and they're able to get some feedback from their peers, which is excellent, as many of them are working in the field and have some knowledge about their topics. The final draft, it ties in all the edits that we've suggested throughout the course, and then really what they're doing is polishing it up to be of publishable quality. I've had some students thinking about publishing in different magazines and policing magazines. In the future, hopefully, we'll get some in some journal articles. There's also the ability to do research, which some students may choose as well. To further facilitate the project-based nature of the course, because it is over 14 weeks, I've used Badger, which is an open source badging program, which allows students to note the milestones along the way, and then they can receive the official LaSalle University Criminal Justice Policy and Research Badge, which can be shared publicly on LinkedIn and also verified through us if they wanted to do that. It's a great resume boost, and you can show that off. Some past student topics that I've had are body cameras, mass incarceration, all sorts of different topics that the students generate, so it's their interest. I've even had a student do a detailed paper on tourniquet use and what the best tourniquet would be to use when first responding. All sorts of different research topics with gun violence, victim services, and then higher up theories with death penalty and punishment. So I'll turn it over to Tom.
All right. Hello, my name is Tom Zwiza. Most people just call me Dr. Z. I'm actually going to be teaching this course for the first time in the spring of 2021, which is next semester. If we're thinking about a new professor, because this is my first time teaching it, I'm not diverging at all from what Professor Weeks has been doing. And so when thinking about how we're going to structure this class, I'm going to have 3 options. Number 1 is the traditional policy paper that Professor Weeks was talking about. So in that case, you'll choose from a number of different topics, or choose one topic of your liking, and you can write a research paper based on that policy. The second option will be, I can give you some topics if you're having trouble thinking about what you might be interested in researching in terms of policy or evaluation. And so I can bring some stuff from my expertise. I can bring stuff from Professor Weeks's expertise and the rest of LaSalle University professors within criminal justice. The third option is the research paper. Now, I think Ed and I are unique in that we tend to publish quite a bit. And so my expertise is really in publishing, analysis, writing, and statistics. And so if you wanted to, you could have the option to do a original research piece, probably survey based, and generate real results from that. And so what I'm going to have is I'm going to have instructions for both sets, whether you want to write a policy piece or if you want to engage in original research. And both of those have merit within the community of criminal justice professionals. Okay. And so, what I'm going to do while you are engaging in your writing, should you take this course with me, I will also be writing a paper along with you. I have a number of papers on my research agenda that need to get done. And so, as you're writing, I will be writing and I will share with you the process that I use, and you can have a chance to peer edit my papers as well. And so, as Professor Weeks talked about peer editing, before I even look at your paper, I'm going to give you the opportunity to have your peers look at it before I do. That way, you can make changes and have a more polished paper before it comes back to me, and then you get the red ink of death. I remember my first time when I did my first PhD paper. I think my professor used all of the red ink on my paper, and he had to go get other ones for other professors. So I don't want that to be the case. So I'm going to have and give you the first opportunity to have your peers evaluate, and then you'll come to me, and then we'll have that feedback. The other thing I'm going to do is provide structure for your paper. I'm going to give you examples of what a policy paper might look like and what an original research article might look like. Because every paper has some qualities. It has an intro, a literature review, methods if it's research, or an extended literature review if it's policy, and then evaluation and results. So that's what we can expect over the course of 14 weeks. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have about what you can expect or what you might be thinking of. And then certainly Professor Weeks can as well.
I want to add one thing is we will provide, we have Jill Schumacher, who is our librarian, who will help you, and you can set up meetings with her and consultations with her to help you with your research as well. Okay, questions, anybody? Any questions are acceptable.
I know a question that I've gotten a lot from students recently with COVID, is how has internship searching changed? Has the research changed at all? Just in looking for topics to maybe research or internships to do, given availability in like federal and state agencies.
In line with COVID, you mean?
Yeah, I know, like, it's been more difficult to find an internship at the state police or different districts. And then with research, I know some students have been thinking about, well, I was going to research this, but it's completely changed because now COVID is happening.
I will say this, okay, because I also supervise internships at the undergraduate level. We have Handshake. We have a career services office that you also could connect with to try to help find internships. And my undergraduate students, there are quite a few remote internships available to people these days now with COVID. I mean, they may not be exactly what you want to do, but they come in all the time through Handshake and lists of them, so that you can do them totally online if that's where you're coming from. It is a little harder, at least I don't, it depends where you're coming from and what your connections are. Some places do not want people to come on site, but others have half and half. That's just something you want to negotiate at this point until we get a little cleaner about what a supervisor would work out. You would do a work plan with them as to what they would need from you and how you're going to complete your 150 hours, which you will discuss with them in advance. But we are flexible in these times and taking whatever kind of work an agency would want you to do. And I can't speak for the research part.
Yeah, so for the research aspect, there's a lot of new, interesting research going on dealing with COVID, and I would recommend that anyone who's interested in the research part of it, go check out ResearchGate and something called ICPSR, and it's the Interconsortium for Political and Social Science Research. And ResearchGate is LinkedIn for researchers. I'm on there. If you want to search for me, you can find the publications I've done and also the different kind of projects I'm working on. But you can also search for other people, and you can type in the word COVID and crime, and you can see what people are doing. Recently, a mentor of mine, Marcus Felsen, you may know him from routine activities theory. He's doing some interesting research on COVID and routine activities and how those routine activities changed over the summer, beginning of spring and all the way until now. And then if you go onto ICPSR, you can often find it's more of a data set warehouse, but you can find a lot of interesting things that people are uploading with COVID and crime. And so there's definitely outlets for people who are interested in research prior to COVID, during COVID, and not so much post COVID yet because we're not quite there. But there's definitely research in both eras.
Question about the internship, because I know that a lot of students are sort of intimidated by that. Do you have any sense on, if students take sick time or vacation time or what to fit the hours in on top of their work?
Like I said, the reason it is a lot when they have full-time jobs, but the reason that it seems to work for those it does work with is it's sort of like so a big one that we've had, I'll give an example, like I said, is the Boston Police it works really well at the community service division. So here are officers, they're doing their hours, right? And then maybe on their days off or on their after hours, which would be a good thing for police officers to do anyway, they report to the community service officer and he sends them out on a community project. So so maybe they're working on the weekends and doing an ice cream truck with the kids in the neighborhood, or maybe they're going to Grove Street, Grove Hall, and hearing what that night they're complaining about with regard to police. So yes, it's a lot, but the time frame is long. So I find that they can do it well because the time frame is long. And I'm very flexible in terms of when you do them. I don't care if you do them in the middle of the night. I don't care what time. And you also can count, like if you're doing accreditation, for example, a project for, you keep all the research time you spend on the project, all the interview times you have with the people around the project, you keep track of all those hours. So it's hard, and so that's why a lot of people take the research track. The classwork, the classwork is important too. You don't just go out there, because I try to make a connection between being out in the world, which most of these people are anyway, but still it's good for them to, brush up on their skills about selling themselves, how to develop themselves, how to keep their resume up to date, how to report back and discuss with each other issues they're seeing at work. So all of those things are involved in the classroom portion. There's only 7 modules in the classroom portion, so they tend to spread out pretty leniently, so they don't have a lot of trouble doing that. There is a paper at the end. It's not a long paper, but it's important because what they need to do is to strive to get something out of these internships, goals that they set for themselves, and then they reflect back on those goals and whether they reach them, they didn't reach them. They're not graded on whether they reach them. They're graded on what they learned from them, what they reflection. And then a very large portion of the grade, 40%, is the evaluation of the site supervisor. So I don't know, does that answer your question?
Yeah, and I was actually thinking about it as you were talking, Linda, and to your point, I actually almost feel like doing an internship in CJ compared to the internships in the other programs would almost be the most like time friendly only because if you were working in a communications job that was 9 to 5 and you wanted to intern somewhere else, that was only 9 to 5, you would have to take time off from work. But
Right,
since these
no.
events are
I haven't
nights and
had anybody
weekends,
say that to me, that they had to take time off from work to
Right.
get their internship.
so that's
Because
great.
of the
because they
nature
can
of the
do
things
that,
they're
yeah.
doing. Yeah, that's a good
And
point.
I've never really thought about that before. So that's a really good thing to be able to relay to students.
Anyone else? They all do it.
Nothing.
Everyone gets it done. At least we've been pretty lucky, you know, as our program has grown and grown. Wouldn't you say, Ed? We do pretty well.
Yeah, it's been growing. I remember when I only had 4 students in the capstone, and now it's up to around 20.
I just put a little cap on I think to get more one-on-one work with the students, that we should break it up into sections if it's more than about 15 or 16, because you want to be able to give all the time you can to the students. But our program's growing, which is good. I think I mean, my favorite part of my internship class that I've been teaching is the discussion forums. And also when I make them do a self-promotion video, because then I get to see them and then I get to really learn about them. I'm going to do more one-on-one videos with them, but the ones who are doing the internship between their job and the internship, I try to not impose on their life too much, but yet be flexible when things happen, you know. Anything else?
I don't think so. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I
Okay.
really appreciate it.
If you send me the video too, and we all have a video, we can always like post that, or when a student writes to me and asks me about it, I can attach the recording for them to see as well.
Awesome.
And we're available for questions anytime, night or day. All my faculty and everyone knows I'm 24/7 on the email. So they get emails from me at 5 in. So, okay, but you don't have to read them at 5 in, but they get them. It actually works pretty well with police schedules. They're always writing to me in the middle of the night. All right, but anyway, lbucci@laselle.edu, lbucci@laselle.edu. Ed Weeks is ed weeks, right? @laselle.edu. And you do the spelling of your name, Tom.
It's TZAWISZA at lasalle.edu.
And he likes to be called Dr. Z. It reminds me of like a science fiction story or
Well,
something.
it's easier than having them call me Professor Zawiza or
I know.
Hey Dude or whatever.
And Professor Zawiza is involved in some really cool, interesting research. So if you want to do if you want to do that, and actually, Professor Weeks is going on sabbatical next semester. And I don't know, Professor Weeks, could you have students work with you while you're on sabbatical? I guess that's possible, isn't it?
It is possible. I would be able to take on maybe a couple students if that's what they were wanting to do in
If
terms
they're
of
interested
doing
in that
the
area
research.
of research. Yeah.
Yeah, and the research area is aging out of the foster care system and offending. And I have a database if they do want to do the quantitative stuff. It's the National Youth in Transition database. So I'll be taking a look at that, and if they're interested, I'll take them.
Very good. And I do allow students on occasion to take research methods simultaneous with their capstone. It is not the best way to go. And I'm going to get to a point where that ain't happening anymore. So we're trying to make sure that the academic plan is in line. So you take the research methods at least the semester before you start the research project. It's not as big a deal for the internship, but so those are the rules. So a lot of the officers, they jump in and they want to finish really quickly so they can get it in their paycheck on the Quinn bill. But the planning has to be laid out specifically. So you make sure you've got a whole main session to add on your capstone or research, but yet you've already done the research methods. That's more, it's even more important. Like, it's okay if you're doing your 27 credits and you want to add that, whatever, you're doing your credits and then you can fit it all in by the end of the 14 weeks. I also allow that, but the research methods is very important before you start. Ah, we have a new person.